Hey everybody, this is Bobby Harbert from Sister to Sister International Network of Professional African American Women, Inc., better known as Sister to Sister, Inc., and you're listening to the Sisters Excel podcast. This show focuses on our guests' lived experiences, their lives from where they came from, and the impact they've had in their communities and beyond. This podcast is for everyone, and especially Black women and girls from all walks of life, where we focus on standing together, building communities of sisterhood, and realizing endless potential. Our mission is to advance equity in all aspects of Black women and girls' lives through community, vital education, scholarship, social connectivity, emotional support, networking, and forums to showcase their creativity in a global environment. Our purpose is to extend authentic sisterhood throughout the world through nurturing communities wherein Black females are respected, recognized, encouraged, supported, and loved, enabling them to thrive. Welcome to Episode 2, Strengthen Your Resilience, Become Stronger Than Stress. Today we're interviewing Dr. Sandra Thibeault. Dr. Sandra Thibeault is a distinguished clinical psychologist with 30 years of experience in stress management and a member of the Colorado Supreme Court Character and Fitness Committee. She began her career as an active duty naval psychologist, teaching stress management to active duty Naval and Marine Corps members, as well as the medical staff of the naval hospitals. Dr. Thibeault is renowned for her ability to facilitate stress management workshops for both large and small organizations. She has written 2 books on stress management and is about to publish another called Stronger Than Stress. Welcome, Dr. Sandra. We're happy to have you with us today.
Thank you, Bobby. I'm so happy to be here.
Dr. Sandra, can you tell us about the inspiration behind your book, Stronger Than Stress, and what led you to explore this topic?
Well, I've been a clinical psychologist for 30 years, and I actually started off as a stress management expert. My first job out of graduate school was as an active duty Navy psychologist. And they said, you're going to teach stress management to the medical staff. And I thought, oh, well, okay. And I taught it to the medical staff. I taught it to active duty Navy personnel, active duty Marine Corps personnel. And then after the military, I started teaching it at Kaiser Permanente and other companies as well. What I've discovered over those last 30 years is that information is not enough. It's really not affecting people's stress levels. It's just giving them more and more information. So people really aren't able to take that information and make it useful to them. And that's what I want to do with this book, is to make the stress management information that's out there something that people can actively use in order to reduce their stress.
Stress is a common experience in our lives. What motivated you to delve into the idea of being stronger than stress rather than simply managing it?
Well, we all have stress in our lives. That's just a given. If you're alive, you have stress. So in a certain way, we're all already managing stress, but we're not always managing it effectively. So some people are managing it by having that glass of wine at night, or eating an extra bowl of ice cream at night, or white knuckling it, or even just ignoring it and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to go to bed, get some sleep. So in a sense, people are already managing their stress. So to say, how do you manage your stress is not really giving people any information. What I want to do is to help people thrive despite stress. And that's why I'm titling it Stronger Than Stress. And the entire focus of the book is how do you use the 4 pillars of well-being to get you to that place where you are stronger than stress, where you are, even though you're experiencing stress, you're still enjoying your life.
Wonderful. And just real quick, so what are the 4 pillars of well-being?
So the 4 pillars that I go into in the book are physical well-being, emotional well-being, mental well-being, and spiritual well-being. And they each interact with each other. If any one of those aspects is missing, your life's going to be lopsided. It's kind of like a table. If one of those 4 legs is missing, your table's not really straightened out. And so I delve into how each one of those 4 pillars, how they interact with each other, and useful techniques for building up each of those areas in your life.
Great. I'm interested in that. Now, how do you define stress, and what are some of the common misconceptions people have about it that your book aims to address?
Well, stress is your reaction to what's happening in your life. And so one of the most common misconceptions we have about stress is that stress can be eliminated. That's like saying you can eliminate any reaction that you have to what's going on in your life. So if you find out that there's some bad news going on in your life, can you not have a reaction to that? Of course not. You're going to have a reaction to that, which means that you're going to have stress. We cannot eliminate stress. So I just want to tear my hair out every time I see some kind of advertisement or something that says, oh, this is going to help you be stress-free. Trust me. There's a joke that I make in the trainings that I do, the corporate trainings that I do. I'm like, if somebody tells you that they're going to help you become stress-free, run, because they're trying to kill you. That's the only time you're ever going to be stress-free.
Well, tell the audience, in your research, have you come across any surprising or counterintuitive findings about stress and its impact on our well-being?
Oh, yes. One of the most fun things I have about explaining to people about stress is that people think that stress is bad. And I'm here to tell you that stress is supposed to be a life-saving response.
Really?
Yes. So think about when we're walking through the Sahara. Back in the days when we're just living in caves, if you came across something that looked like some slithering thing in the distance, your body would immediately go into a stress response, which means that your muscles are tightening up and your eyes are dilating and your hearing is becoming more acute. All of this is so that you are in the best position to fight or flee. That is the purpose of our stress response, to make sure that we survive. Now, granted, your stress response doesn't care if you thrive, but it does care that you survive. So if you're walking and you hear a roar, you're going to all of a sudden have that reaction, because if that bear comes charging at you, you want to be as strong as possible to fight that bear off or to be able to run as fast as you possibly can. Now, the reason why we think that stress is bad is because there are some consequences to that response that helps you be able to fight or to flee. Some of those things are your digestive system changes, your immune system goes down, your circulatory system changes, tissue repair shuts down, things like that. And the reason for it is because let's say that you're fighting a stomach bug. And frankly, we are always fighting off something. Even if you feel currently healthy, it's because your immune system is fighting something off, some germ that you touched when you were opening up a doorknob or something like that. So your immune system's always fighting something off. During that fight or flight response, your immune system shuts down because it's thinking, well, if that saber-toothed tiger happens to eat you, well, guess where that bug goes? That bug goes into the saber-toothed tiger, and now the saber-toothed tiger's immune system can worry about that. So that's the reason why your immune system shuts down, right? Your body isn't interested in trying to digest food when it's trying to keep you alive. You're not going to be digesting anything if you're dead. So certain things do shut down, but in general, your stress response is designed to keep you alive. The problem is that the stress response wasn't designed to be activated all the time. And so if your immune system is constantly being depressed, your digestive system is constantly being changed, your circulatory system is constantly being changed, then we start to see the diseases that are associated with stress. And that's where we start to get this idea that stress is bad. Stress actually isn't bad. It's ongoing chronic stress that's bad.
Well, stress can manifest in various ways, such as mental, emotional, and physical symptoms. How does your book address these different aspects of stress?
Oh, it goes into each aspect in depth. So I outline of the various ways that stress can show up mentally. Because the thing is that when we feel stress, all we're thinking of is, I just feel like I want to get away. We're not really breaking down the physical symptoms where you're noticing that your heart's racing, that your hands are clenched, that your muscles are tightening. A lot of people don't even realize that their muscles are tightening until the end of the day, where they've got neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain. These things have been happening throughout the entire day. Same thing with mental symptoms of emotion, of stress. People don't realize that stress is starting to affect their mental capacity until they start making mistakes, they're forgetting, they're procrastinating. And then emotionally, that is a little easier for us to recognize because emotions are really tied in with stress. You can feel that you're just irritated and people are just setting you off a lot more easily. So the book goes in depth into the different symptoms so that people can become more aware of when they are feeling stress so that they can do something about it sooner rather than later.
Stronger than stress sounds like a holistic approach to well-being. Can you discuss how factors like diet, exercise, and mindfulness play a role in managing stress?
Absolutely. This is a holistic book. It really is helping people to understand that well-being is multifaceted. It doesn't just include meditation and deep breathing, that if you don't take a holistic approach to well-being, you're going to be lopsided and you're not going to be as healthy as you can be or as happy as you can be. So diet is part of that. What you put into your body affects your body's ability to withstand stress. So if you're already starving and now you've got a stress response happening to you, and your digestive system is shutting down, that's less nutrients going to your body. Exercise, if you're not used to moving your body, it's going to be very difficult for you to maximize or for your body to maximize its stress response. What do fight and flight have in common? Movement. So when your body gets flooded with all of the stress chemicals, your body was naturally designed to get those chemicals out of your body because you're fighting or you're running. But if you're just sitting or you're not used to exercise, you're going to have a difficult time getting those stress chemicals out of your body. So it's a very holistic approach, and those are very important parts of it.
That's great to know because most people try to chill, sit down, relax. When they're stressed out, they don't actually think I need to get up and move and exercise to get these toxins out of my system.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, if you have stage fright, if you have to do a presentation in front of other people, and by the way, speaking in public is the number one fear, the best thing that you can do is do a few jumping jacks before you have to get on stage or before you have to do that presentation. It's going to release some of those stress chemicals and make it easier for you to feel more comfortable in doing that presentation.
Oh, good to know. Stress can impact not only individuals, but also relationships and communities. How does your book address the broader social implications of stress and resilience?
Oh, this book absolutely addresses the social implications because research after research shows that the number one buffer against the negative effects of stress is social support. So in my book, I go through the different types of support that you should have in your life. So support is just a global term. Do you have people in your life? But you might have somebody who is willing to listen to you, but they're not going to lend you any money. You have other people who will lend you money, but they don't want to even hear about your problems, right? So there are different kinds of support that you need to have in your life. So the book absolutely addresses social support, the different types of support that you need, even religious support, community support. There are many different types of support. And so it'll help people to realize, do you only have one kind of support in your life? How can you go about finding other types of support in your life? So I delve into that completely into the book.
What do you hope readers will take away from your book, and what positive changes do you hope to see in their lives as a result of reading it?
You know, if this book can help people understand stress and see it from a realistic viewpoint, I will have empowered people more than they think to be able to deal with stress in their lives. Too many of us are denying it, villainizing it, not understanding it, trying to address something that actually isn't stress, and they're being left helpless and noticing, or maybe not even noticing, that their stress levels haven't changed at all. And so if I can help people to understand what stress is and what it's not, so that they can actually do the things that are going to reduce their stress, I will have changed a lot of people's lives.
So you mentioned you would help them figure out what stress is not. What would be some examples of what stress is not?
Oh, good question. All right. So this goes into an entire course that I've created for a lot of companies called The Number One Source of Stress. a lot of times, and this goes back to Albert Ellis's ABC model. So A stands for activating event. Something happens. And C stands for the consequence, the stress, whether it's emotional stress or mental stress or physical stress. So let's say you're on your way to work, you go into your garage and your tire's flat. And you're just like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm going to be late. Do I even have a tire iron? Do I even have a spare? All of that is stress. However, the B in this is the actual cause of your stress. It's not the flat tire. It's what happens in your mind in between noticing the flat tire and having that reaction. And so a lot of times people will blame their kids, their jobs, their bosses, the weather, the environment, noise, all of these things as their stress. Those are just stressors. They are the triggers to your stress. Everyone reacts to those situations differently. Look at the pandemic. The entire world went through a stressor called the pandemic. And yet we had multiple different reactions to that. Why? Not because the pandemic was stress, but because of what was going on in our minds that created the stress. And that's what I mean by what stress is and what stress is not. So a lot of times we point to an external event as the cause of our stress, and we try and deal with that external event. And sometimes we have control over those external events, and sometimes we don't. And yet we don't stop trying to control those events anyway, and then end up creating more stress for ourselves. The actual stress is what's going on in our minds. So if you got 10 people sitting in traffic, some people are going to get really pissed off. Some of them are not going to care and just turn up the music and start singing. Why is that? It's the meaning that they're making about the situation that they're in. So if you can understand that, you have 100% control over what's happening in your mind. You may not even have 30% control over what's happening in the outside world. So if you can control that 100%, you can control your level of stress and bring it down.
That's good to know. Thank you for that. Dr. Sandra?
Yes.
Tell me, what are some of the things that make you smile?
You know, my kids make me smile. They are just kind of awesome human beings. It's amazing how you think that you created these people. You didn't create these people. You just helped them come into the world. And then you just watch to see who they actually are. And if you give them the right environment, they will become the best of who they can be. And we can see that just in science, that the condition of a cell is not based on what's happening inside the cell, but on the environment that it's in. If you put a cell in a clean environment, it will thrive. You take that same cell and you put it in a dirty environment, that cell will die. And so I think I've done a pretty good job of putting my kids in a good environment. And I'm just kind of excited to see the kind of people that they are.
You are absolutely correct, because I've met both of your children, and they are wonderful human beings. Well, great information. So in conclusion, what would you like our listeners to take away?
Wow, that's a good question. I guess what I would love for each individual to take away is that they are more than their environment, that there's something in them. Even the desire for a better life is a reflection of the goodness in them. Like, I just want people to know that we're all amazing people just doing our best. Like, if you're under stress right now, I know you're doing your best. I know what stress is like. I have been under considerable amounts of stress and had to put everything that I have learned and taught over the last 30 years to the maximum use possible so that I could survive and eventually get to a place where I can start to thrive. And I just want everybody to know that no matter what your current situation is, you are doing the best you can. And I really hope that the information in my book helps you to do the even better. Like, I'm trying to make this book be a support system for you so that you have the information packaged in a way that is going to make you have a better life. So you don't have to feel like what's going on now, you're stuck with it.
That is a great takeaway. Thank you so much. And so where can people get a hold of you?
Well, if people want more information, I put a ton of information on my YouTube channel. So just go to @StressIntel. That's STRESSINTEL, Stress and Tell. And then the other great place to get a hold of, corporate trainings or online courses would be on my website, which is stressandtell.com.
Good to know. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It has been my pleasure to be here on this podcast. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's been our pleasure to have you. Our next guest will be Edna Ruth Henry, who has spent many years working with corporate America in one of our largest financial institutions. Ms. Henry will be discussing basic money management as it relates to financial wellness. Thank you for listening to Sisters Excel podcast. This podcast is for everyone, and especially Black women and girls from all walks of life, where we focus on standing together, building communities of sisterhood, and realizing endless potential. Our mission is to advance equity in all aspects of Black women and girls' lives through community, vital education, scholarship, social connectivity, emotional support, networking, and forums to showcase their creativity in a global environment. Our purpose is to extend authentic sisterhood throughout the world through nurturing communities wherein Black females are respected, recognized, encouraged, and supported, and loved, enabling them to thrive. Thank you for sitting down with us, and remember to live your life to inspire and to be inspired.